Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Fluid Engine Fundamentals webinar. My name is Claire, and I am on our customer education team here at Squarespace. I'm so excited today. Jeff and Eric on our product team are going to be introducing you to Fluid Engine, which is our newest drag and drop editor. Just so you know, we also have Parker, Eunice, and Sarah from our community team. They're standing by to answer any questions you have in the Q&A window throughout the webinar. I see that a few of you have already found it, which is great. Please keep asking those questions. We're also going to take a few of those to answer live at the end as well, so be sure to stick around for that. We are going to be focusing on Fluid Engine today, so if you have any specific questions about your site or other Squarespace features or products, you can always reach out to our customer support team via live chat or email at support.squarespace.com. We've also included a few helpful links in the resources section, so be sure to check those out when you have a chance. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jeff now so that we can get into what you're all here to learn about, which is Fluid Engine. So Jeff, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Claire. Hey, everyone. Very excited to walk you through Fluid Engine today. So quick introduction. My name is Jeff Aldrich, and I'm a group product manager here at Squarespace. And I'm joined today also by my colleague, Eric, who is a product design manager. And we're going to give you an intro to Fluid Engine. I'll give a little context about what Fluid Engine is, why we built it, and then Eric will be giving us our product demo. So yeah, we'll walk through what Fluid Engine is, why we built it, why now, and then Eric's going to give us that demo. So I just wanted to set a little context. So what is Fluid Engine? Fluid Engine is our new drag and drop editing experience. And we're going to give you a demo of exactly what that looks like. But I first wanted to talk through a bit about why we made this change on Squarespace, where you will see Fluid Engine throughout your Squarespace websites, and what are the new features, tools, and opportunities that Fluid Engine gives you. So why did we do this? The big overarching goal of Fluid Engine was to help you, our customers, to achieve your envisioned layouts faster and more easily. We also really wanted to lean into certain editing paradigms that most of our customers are familiar with from layout and style tooling in other programs. So Fluid Engine, it opens up a lot of new possibilities for different kinds of creative layouts that were never possible before. And it also does it in a way that's going to make it a lot easier to do things like image resizing, moving, and rearranging. So where are you going to see Fluid Engine in Squarespace? So now that Fluid Engine is available on all English language 7.1 sites, you will be using it on any new section that has blocks. You'll be using it in the footer. You'll be using it on portfolio subpages. There are a couple areas of the platform that are not using Fluid Engine. That includes blog posts. That includes event descriptions in the event collection. And that includes the additional information section on product detail pages if you have an online store. So those are a couple areas where Fluid Engine is not. Those continue to use our classic editor. But all other pages, all of your main CMS pages, your primary editing experience, your primary drag and drop experience will be with Fluid Engine. If you have a site that you started before we launched Fluid Engine, then any that was using our classic editor, those sections will still continue to use our classic editor. And you're welcome to continue using the classic editor for your existing sites, existing sections. But you can, if you want to, upgrade any of your classic editor sections into Fluid Engine sections. There's a button that says upgrade. And just to note that if you do that, once you upgrade it to Fluid Engine and hit save, it will not be possible to go back to the classic editor. That's going to permanently put that section into the Fluid Engine editor. If you want to, you can always duplicate a section first. So you could take a section built with our classic editor, duplicate it, upgrade that to Fluid Engine. That might be a way to make sure that it's something you want to use. And yeah, so what can you do with Fluid Engine? So Fluid Engine gives you a lot more flexibility than our classic editor for block placement, for how you resize blocks. It allows you to overlap blocks on top of one another, and you can create super dynamic layouts. Eric's going to show you a lot of that in a moment. You can also, very excited about this, you can make edits to your mobile site. So that's how your site's going to look on a mobile device. And you have a lot more flexibility for what your mobile site will look like. And you can make edits there that are not going to disrupt how it looks on a desktop or on a bigger browser width. Okay, so that's just a little bit of what it is, why we built it. But what you're here for is to see it in action. And so at this point, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Eric, to give us a demo of what Fluid Engine is and how it works. Over to you, Eric.
Hi, everybody. Let me just get this window up for you guys. Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Song, and I'm a product design manager at Squarespace, and I'm excited to share with you a demo of Fluid Engine and show you all that we've been working on. So the most significant difference you'll notice on Fluid Engine is how you move, resize, and place blocks on a page. So currently on the classic editor, if you wanted to resize, for example, this image here, the way that you would do it is by adding a spacer block to the left, a spacer block to the right and left of it, and then you would use that to control the size of it. If I wanted to reposition this image to the left side, I would have to use these spacer blocks and resize those. And if I wanted to drag this image down, I would add another spacer block here to then control the height of it so that it will reposition the image. In Fluid Engine, that dramatically changes. So let me go over to the Fluid Engine site here. And in Fluid Engine, to move a block, all you need to do is hold down the mouse and just move it to wherever you like. And as I'm moving, you'll notice that a grid appears in the back. This is because Fluid Engine is built with a grid system. So this allows you to edit freely while still maintaining some guardrails for consistency. So I can just go ahead and move that around and drop it into place, move that around, drop it into place. Resizing is just how you'd imagine it work. So you would just grab the sides or the corner and then go ahead and resize. So you can make it smaller or bigger, just like that. We also included some keyboard shortcuts, keyboard navigation and controls, so that if I use the arrow keys, I can also move it around as well. But I could also hold down the command if you're on a Mac or Alt and then use the arrow keys and then go ahead and resize just like that. There you go. And adding a block is now done in a centralized place. So if you remember from the classic editor, we had these like insert points that you can go ahead and click. But in Fluid Engine, you'll see that there's an add block button on the left top corner of each section. When you click on that, you'll see that you'll see a similar block picker that is available. And what you can do here is I can do a couple of things. Oh, 1 second. Sorry about that. There we go. So there's two ways that you could add it. The first thing you can do is I can click on a block that I want to add, and it'll place it on the top left, and then I could drag it into place. But alternatively, what I can do is I can hit add block and just drag it directly from the block picker. So instead of having to click it and move it around, I could directly click on this and drag it right into place. You can also drag multiple blocks at the same time. So all you need to do is highlight the blocks that you want to move, and it'll select that for you as a group, and then you could go ahead and move that around together. This is also a great way if you want to bulk delete a bunch of items. You could go ahead and highlight two things, and then I could either hit this icon here to remove it, or I could use the delete key, and then I could go ahead and delete that. The next thing that I want to show you is the image block. We've made some updates to it that might be very helpful in Fluid Engine. So let me go ahead and add another image in here. And let me Just resize this, and I'm going to go ahead and upload an image that I have. So once this image is uploaded, you'll see that it's slightly different from the one on the left. And it's because the one on the right is maintaining its aspect ratio. So no matter how you resize it, it'll always maintain that aspect ratio. But if you go into Edit and under Design, you'll now see an option to fill this image. We also still have the shape available to you, but to fill this image. And what that does is it'll fill the image within the container. So as you can see, as I'm resizing, it'll fill that container space up. Another feature we added in Fluid Engine is also the ability to bring a block to the edge of the browser, which we couldn't do before. So let me go ahead and show you that. So I could have this image be flushed right up against the edge, just like that. So as you can see, it's touching the edge of the screen. And I may be able to create a lockup that is something like this. Let me go ahead and put that text here. I can create a lockup like that. The other thing is, in the section, now you'll see an Edit Section button. And when you open that, there's a couple of things that you can do here. The first thing you'll notice is the row count. What that does is it adjusts the amount of rows within a section, which then adjusts the height of the section. You could also do that by using this little drag handle to go ahead and increase the height. And you could also change the gap spacing of the grid itself. So I could say no gap between the grid, or I can do the default setting. If you want, you could go ahead and customize each of these individually. You may want to use the no gap if you want to have images or content be flushed right next to each other. So for instance, if I wanted to have this image be flushed right up against this one, I may use the no gap tweak there. And lastly, with Fluid Engine, as Jeff mentioned, we now allow users to independently edit the mobile version of their site. More people are consuming a website through their mobile devices, so we're really excited to unlock this ability of Fluid Engine so that you can create a very bespoke landing experience for your customers or your clients. And let me go ahead and show you that right now. So I'm going to go on the top right corner, go to the mobile view, and you'll see this right here. You'll see all of your content here. And there's a couple of things that I can do. I can edit this just like I was going to edit my desktop, just by moving it around. So I could easily just move this around like that. I could resize it. But we also added another feature in here where you have this button right here. It says move up. And what that does is it swaps the content just like that. So I can go ahead and move it like that. Or I can go ahead and just, drag this around how I would on the desktop version. And the cool thing about this too is now I can go ahead and create something like this. So I want to have the text on top there so that as soon as a user lands, they'll get to read it and then they'll see the images. When I toggle back to the desktop, you'll notice that it's unaffected. And now you have a very unique and independent desktop and mobile experience. So I'm going to just take everything that I showed you today and make a quick little section here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add a background image because I'm a grocery store and I want to have a pretty nice landing experience here. Okay, so I'm going to have this text up here. I'm going to add one of our new blocks that we introduced called a scrolling block. And then I'm going to go ahead and type in organic. And let me just tweak some of these settings here. I really want it to be massive. The other thing that I want to do here is I'm going to take this and have it be flushed to the side, kind of like what I showed you, because I really want this scrolling text to be coming out from the edge of the browser. So again, I can move this and I'm going to resize it with my keyboard, kind of like what I showed you by holding down Command or Alt. And then I'm going to add in a couple of filler images here. I have a couple of these really nice fruit stickers. So I'm going to place that one there. Let me go ahead and add another one in. this one. They're really tiny, put that there. Let me add in another one here. And then just to create a little bit of depth, I'm gonna actually send this to the back, like that. So there's a little bit of depth to that. And then lastly, I found this twirling pear that I really liked. I'm gonna place that right there. So as you can see, using the full width, the layer management, the resizing, I put together this section. So I'm going to go into mobile and just to make a very unique mobile landing experience for this. So when you go inside the mobile experience, all of the blocks are added in the order in which it was added on the desktop. So let me go ahead and tweak this. The first thing I'm going to do is the same thing that I did. I want it to be edge to edge. This time I'm going to go ahead and reorganize these in a way where it's slightly different from the one that I had on desktop. So let me put that there. Again, I'm gonna take this to the back so that it's under there. I'll bring this pair up and then make this one tiny. I'll put it on this edge this time, just like that. And then I'm gonna take this little grab handle just to resize the height of my browser, the section. And as you can see, it won't let me go any further if it's about to hit another block. And there you have it. So I have the desktop, the mobile version here, very slightly different from the desktop version. As you can see, I was rearranging all those images. And here you have it, a very unique landing experience for mobile in comparison to your desktop. So this is Fluid Engine, and for us, this is just the beginning, and we're really excited to share this with you all. We cannot see what you're going to create. And with that, I'm going to pass this back over to Jeff.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eric. Really exciting. So hopefully that gives you sort of a primer on what Fluid Engine is, how it works, the kinds of things that are possible now that were not possible before Fluid Engine. Yeah, we're really excited and we're continuing to work on it. So you'll be seeing a lot of cool updates and improvements to Fluid Engine over the rest of this year. And yeah, so that's the end of our demo. And I know we have a bunch of questions that have come in. And so Claire, I guess I'll turn it over to you to let us know what people are asking.
I think before we get into some of the more product related questions, I just wanted to, I saw a few questions come in asking about if they'd be able to get the slides to this, watch this again. So just want to confirm with everyone, you are going to get a recording of this webinar to your inbox after we conclude the webinar. So don't worry about that. You'll be able to rewatch this again. There are a ton of questions coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and just read one out. They're flooding in, so it's hard for me to flip it right onto the slides for you. But the first one I wanted to call out that I saw was someone asking, can I use Fluid Engine on my mobile browser or in the Squarespace app?
Yeah, great question. So you can do certain things with Fluid Engine, but currently in the mobile app, you can view your Fluid Engine section. You can't make edits to it. Is that correct, Eric? And as well on mobile web. So you can view the Fluid Engine section, but not make edits to it. So if you are looking to make edits to your Fluid Engine section, you'll need to do that on a laptop or a desktop.
Awesome. And then another one that I saw come in was, why does my mobile layout look different from my desktop layout?
Eric, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so we use a specific width to preview it. I mean, the way that it scales from desktop to mobile, it's going to be responsive. And so we're only kind of showing you one view on mobile, which is going to be 275 pixels wide. So it's just a one view of it. Depending on the mobile device, it might look slightly different if you have, the iPhone 13 or a mini or whatever size it may be. But right now we're using one size to kind of demonstrate what that mobile view is going to look like. But when it scales from that mobile view to the desktop view, it should be responsive.
Okay, cool. And then another one I saw come in was someone asking if they could keep using the classic editor for new sections.
Yeah,
yes,
great question. Go ahead, Eric.
Oh yeah, yes, you absolutely can right now. When you go, let me go and just show it to you. Right now if you go into the section store, right here, if you hit add section, if you go to the bottom, you'll still have a way to add it. We have this link here. If you're looking for sections with a classic editor, you'll see all the sections that were available to you, and that will be completely built with the classic editor.
Okay, great. And then I also got a question. Some sections or pages I add to my site don't use the Fluid Engine grid.
Yeah, so the question is, why is it that some sections don't? So it could be for a few reasons. One, it could be if they were sections or pages that you added before we released Fluid Engine, those would still be using the classic editor. It could be that if you are using, if you're looking at a blog page or you're looking at a product detail page, those would still be using the classic editor. It could also be, right now, Fluid Engine is released for English language templates and the section catalog and page catalog. So if you were looking at the section catalog in a language other than English, you would still be bringing in classic editor sections. But we are rolling out internationally over the next few months.
Nice. And then another question, I don't know, Eric, if you'd be able to demo this, but when resizing an image, does it automatically snap to grid?
Yes, it does automatically snap to grid. And again, I showed you guys before, you guys could tweak the spacing between the grid to see how you want it to snap, but all image resizing will snap to grid. And depending on if you do the fit and fill mode, so the fill being, it fills up the entire container of the block, or fit where it maintains the aspect ratio, you'll see the difference there, but it's going to snap to the grid.
Okay, great. And then a question from one of our users who's using 7.0. Will Fluid Engine ever be available on 7.0 sites?
Short answer there would be no. We don't plan to put Fluid Engine into 7.0 sites. The technical reason for that is that Fluid Engine is a section, and 7.0 sites do not use our section framework. So currently, Fluid Engine is just for 7.1 websites.
Awesome. Thanks for clarifying that. The next question we got, someone who wants to really go to the limit, is there a max number of layers that you can do?
There is, and I don't know it off the top of my head. It's a large number that almost no one would hit, but there would be some system-wide limit for the number of layers. But I forget what that actual number was, but it would be.
But we can assume very, very high.
Yeah. Yes.
In the hundreds. Okay, so just general design guidance, you probably shouldn't be hitting up to the hundreds of the layers anyway.
That's right. We wouldn't expect anyone to be maxing out the limitation there.
And then the next question I've got is, so we can have both classic and fluid sections within our websites on the same page? Just wanting to confirm that.
Yep, you could definitely be in that state. So if you have a current website where most of it is built with the classic editor, and you then either upgraded one of those sections to Fluid Engine or brought in a new section that was Fluid Engine, then in that case, you would have a state where some of the sections on your page were using the classic editor and some were using Fluid Engine.
Awesome. And then the next question is someone wondering if there are any additional costs to using Fluid Engine.
Nope, it's included for everyone, part of all plans. There's no extra cost for it.
Okay. And next we've got, is it possible to duplicate or copy and paste a section or a block?
There will be very soon. We are currently working on that. So you will be able to, it's not released yet, but you'll be able to use keyboard shortcuts, your typical copy and paste shortcuts. And we will also have UI within the editor for duplicating a block or duplicating a group of blocks, which is a nice way to take a layout you've made, let's say a lockup of an image and text and a button, copy all of that and make a copy of it. So not currently, but we will be releasing that later this year.
Yeah, and that sounds like really nice if you're building out something like an about page and you just want to like replicate the same thing for each like person, like employees or something. That sounds like a really nice option for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then another question we've got is there a plan to add Fluid Engine to those areas where it's not active yet, like the product additional info, blogs, etc.?
Not currently. It's something we're looking into, but we don't have any immediate plans to roll it out to those areas.
Cool. And then there's a question, what happens to the existing version when we switch to Fluid Engine? I'm assuming what happens to the existing section of the classic editor when you switch to Fluid Engine.
Yeah, so the way that would work is you would go into edit mode and you would go to the section that you wanted to convert and you would click update or upgrade. And then visually what you'll see is it will look identical. It won't even look like anything has happened. So it'll be the same blocks, the same content, the same layout. And it will just be as you go to then edit it, it will be using the Fluid Engine grid as the underlying editing framework for that. So it's not, I guess what happens to it is that it is converted. And so the existing version has been replaced by the Fluid Engine version. So it's not making a copy of it, it's replacing it in place on the screen, if that makes sense.
Awesome. That makes sense.
Do you guys mind if I show that real quick? Because I think it might be helpful.
Oh, that would be great, because I've also got the next question is where do I find the button to upgrade to Fluid Engine? So we can just help people see that.
Cool. So I'm just going to kind of put this right here. This is a classic editor section, and you can tell the difference in a couple of ways. You have the way that you add a block is through these little insert points here. And the other difference is you'll see this button here on the top left corner that says upgrade. When you hover over it, you'll get a little bit more information. If you click on that button, what it's going to do is it's going to convert that into a Fluid Engine section now. So as you can see, now the add block is here, it's slightly different. You can see that I can go ahead and move this block around. You could try this out and you could also undo it as well and it'll revert back. But the moment you save this page, if you've converted it and you save it, the classic editor version of it would disappear. So if you want to like play around with it, one thing that we may suggest is you could duplicate a section. So you may have two versions of it and convert one of those into Fluid Engine and then go ahead and try it out and see if you like it. And then if you do like it, you can go ahead and remove the other one if you don't need it.
Nice. Thanks so much for showing that, Eric. And then this is another one that's kind of looking forward, but someone wondering if we're thinking about creating templates or I guess layouts with the Fluid Engine that we can use and edit with their own content.
Yeah, so that has already happened. So if you were to go today and start a new Squarespace website from our template store, all of our templates have been recreated using Fluid Engine. So they all look identical to the way they looked before Fluid Engine, but they're all just built with that technology. In addition, in the section catalog, so when you go to add a new section to a page, all of those sections we have converted to Fluid Engine. And just recently, in the last week or two, we rolled out a bunch of new layouts in the section catalog that really show off what Fluid Engine is capable of. So showing off a lot of what Eric was showing, full bleed, overlapping, bespoke mobile layouts. So the section catalog now has a lot of templated staged content you can pull in and edit using the Fluid Engine editor.
Okay, great. And another question I saw come in was someone wondering, I think similar to the layer max, but is there a limit to how many blocks I can add to the grid? I'm guessing that's another one where a limit exists, but is quite ambitious to reach.
Yes, I'm sure the system has a limit, and I don't know the number off the top of my head, but nothing that any normal use case should ever hit. Similarly to the number of rows that can be in a Fluid Engine section, there is a limit to how tall it can be, but it's quite tall, and most people would not hit that limit.
Awesome. And then a question, does Fluid Engine work seamlessly with the commerce sites?
Yeah, so right now the commerce sites, so if you had a product details page or a product list page, those are mostly not using a drag and drop editor. So most of the content that you put onto a product details page or that shows up on a list page are structured content. So there's a place you put in the price, there's a place you put in the quantity, there's a place you put in the images for it. So most of those pages was not using our classic editor and continues not to use Fluid Engine. It's kind of its own editing paradigm. On the product details page at the bottom, you've been able to add extra information, and that continues to use the classic editor. So if that's something you're using, where you're using that additional info section at the bottom of a product details page, that is not using Fluid Engine, that's still using the classic editor.
Okay, great. And then a question, is there any reason not to upgrade our sections? I think we're a little biased because we think Fluid Engine is awesome, but can you all think of a reason why someone wouldn't want to upgrade their section?
Yeah, I mean, for one thing, if you don't have plans to edit the section much or at all, it could just be like, if it's not broke, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're happy with how it looks and you don't have any plans to do anything else with it, there's no harm in just keeping it untouched. There are also a handful of things that Fluid Engine does differently than the classic editor, where you may prefer some aspect of the classic editor. One example is in Fluid Engine, we have so many more options for how you layer things. In the classic editor, we had image layouts, which were a handful of structured ways you could layer things. So because Fluid Engine opens up so many more possibilities, we don't use that same image layout editing paradigm in Fluid Engine. But if that's something that you have been using and you find really convenient, you might want to continue using that in the classic editor. But for the most part, no, I can't think of any reason not to upgrade. Oh, Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say another reason might be if you really want to kind of change up your mobile landing experience for your customers or people that are visiting your site. Because right now in the classic editor, we stack everything together. So if you had for an example, like a logo wall, a 3-up logo wall, so you have 3 logos that you wanted to present. On desktop, it might be very tight and visually, concise, but on On the classic editor, it'll stack itself up. And instead in Fluid Engine, you go ahead and rearrange it accordingly. So for a very bespoke mobile landing experience, it might be a reason to come into Fluid Engine. But if you wanted to just automatically rearrange itself for you the way that classic editor does, that might be one reason to stay.
Okay, cool. That's really helpful to give people that context of kind of the difference between the two of them. Another question that actually I don't think I know the answer to off of the top of my head. Will this work with code blocks, or how would this work with code blocks?
Yep, works with code blocks, works the same way that Classic Editor does. So the entire block system that Classic Editor uses, we have the exact same blocks available in Fluid Engine. So you can drag in a code block and do everything that you could do before.
Minus the spacer block.
Right, there's no more spacer blocks. That's the one block we removed from Fluid Engine.
That makes sense, because now we've got the grid, so you don't need the spacer block.
That's right.
And then this next question was, when would I use no gap or with gap?
Yeah, so the reason why you may want to use no gap is, like I mentioned, if you want objects to be flushed right up against each other. So if I wanted to have like a collage of images that I kind of wanted to layer and reposition, and I want it to be side by side, I may choose a no gap grid. Or
hey, Eric, would you be able to share your screen again and maybe just demo this for us? I think it might be helpful to see.
Of course. Let me go ahead and do that. Let me go ahead and just put in just a couple of image blocks here so that you can see that. So here, as you can see, I have 3 image blocks, and there's a little bit of a gap between that. I may turn it off if I want it to be stacked right next to each other. So let me go ahead and just plug in some images here, and this one. Go ahead and do that. So I'm going to set these to fill. So it's taking up the entire container space. And so as you can see here, all of these images are like stacked right next up against each other. You may want to do that. You may want to use the no gap for this particular reason. Or if you just wanted a tighter composition of your layout, you may want to use a no gap as well. So like the spacing between these is just 1 row height difference versus if I had a bit of a row. I have the row, but I also have the little spacing between each of the rows as well. So the spacing difference there is different, as you can see when I'm switching over between these 2 images here.
Awesome. And then another question we had was, can we create a trial site to fool around with Fluid Engine? I guess, Jeff and Eric, what are your opinions on how folks should best play around with this?
Yeah, you could definitely create a trial site. You go start a new trial, and if you did that today, all of the sections will be Fluid Engine sections. Well, all of the sections that were Classic Editor sections will be Fluid Engine sections. You could also make a new page on your site and pull in sections into that, and that would be another way to play around with Fluid Engine, or add a section to an existing page, and not, you don't have to save it, but you could just pull in a new section, and that would be a Fluid Engine section, and you could play around with it that way.
Yeah, you could even add a new page and just see what happens if you try to recreate one of your pages in Fluid Engine, see the different options you have there too.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just want to give a real quick shout out to all of our attendees here we have had so many amazing questions. And I know Parker, Eunice, and Sarah, and Joe have all been also trying to answer some of the ones we're not going to get to live via the Q&A app. So thank you again for your engagement. One last question that we had that I wanted us to cover here before we wrapped things up was, when will this be rolled out in Europe?
Yeah, great question. So we're working on it currently. We have a lot of people going through all of our templates and sections and in other languages and turning those into Fluid Engine sections. Current plan is that should be done by the end of October. So we're shooting for end of October to be releasing Fluid Engine worldwide.
Awesome. Well, like I said, thank attended for coming, actions, learning about this new editor. I, for one, am really excited to see everything that you all build using this new editing experience. A big thank you to Jeff and Eric, who are both on our product team and presented this webinar. We usually don't get the pleasure of having our product folks present a webinar, so I really appreciate that. If you do have any more questions, either about Fluid Engine, about your site in particular, about other Squarespace features and products, you can always check out support.squarespace.com. We've got a ton of guides and videos there. And that's also where you'll be able to find our customer support team, who are always on hand to help you via email. And we also offer live chat. Also, if you enjoyed this webinar and you'd like to attend more webinars that are hosted by our community team, not the lovely Jeff and Eric, but some other folks we have on our team, those are available at learning.squarespace.com. We've got webinars right now that cover getting started, launching your online store, growing your audience, and we also have a 2-part series on Squarespace scheduling. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you all so much for coming, and we can't wait to see what you build. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.